It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to It's About to Go Down. I'm Cathey Armillas.
I am Marc Williams, and we are here with the incomparable, the super friendly, the awesome and amazing Heather Barta. and listen, Heather, there are so many amazing things that I could tell the world about you and what you do. But what I'd love to say is, probably about 2 years ago, I got an opportunity to meet somebody who has become near and dear to my heart, somebody who really inspires me every time we're in one of these spaces and we're exchanging stories and telling all kinds of things. And it's you, Heather. It's you, right? And Heather, we have so adored and loved having you be a part of Speaker Skills Academy. One of our Speaker Skills Academy members, community members, that it only seems natural and fitting to bring you not out of that space, but through that space and into the doors of It's About to Go Down. And Heather, you bring so many strengths with you that we would love to have this conversation today about your idea around knowing and using our strengths. So Heather, welcome to It's About to Go Down.
Thank you. And thank you for that heartwarming introduction. Being a part of your community has been a highlight of my life over the last time period that I've been participating, if you will. I love just my remembrance of taking a walk, fast walk with Cathey. And she just was asking so many great questions. And one of the things that came out is that I didn't feel like I was part of a community because my work had become where I was just working with clients and a lot of it was online, and I didn't have interns or coworkers or a team that I felt a part of. And so I was invited to be a guest, if you will. And I just loved it. I loved every minute of all the drills and the people who were there, and I felt embraced and included. And Marc, you mentioned some of my talents that I have, and I had the opportunity for people to reflect really positive things about me. And I think that that was a catalyst for what I have gone on to explore and do. So there is so much power in being seen and people talking about what you're good at. And that's really where I want to start. I want to start with what are we good at? and the why behind that. So one of the ways to categorize what we're good at is by calling it a talent. And under this paradigm that I'm going to talk about, a talent, when combined with an investment, equals a strength. So when you have a talent in this formula, and I will talk about that, and you invest time and energy into it, rather than fixing something that you're not good at, that becomes a strength. And strengths are powerful things when we know what they are, when we own them, when we use them, when we get to express them. People who use their strengths are happier, they're more productive, they're more satisfied in a work environment. So there are all these positive things about strengths. And it's so cute because sometimes when I tell people that I become a strength finder coach, they think that I am here to pump you up. And I am here to pump you up, but not in the way that you think about it. So, unlike Cathey, I don't have like this athletic physique, and I'm just like, are you kidding me when people think like maybe I'm a fitness coach? But it has some of this, those same qualities that where you strengthen and you maximize and all these wonderful things. So I'm going to step back for a minute and I'm going to go back 10 plus years. And I owned a business and had a business partner, and we'd shared a number of successes. And we also had some, pretty big failures and some spots where we had conflict and we struggled. And I was working with a coach, and she suggested that I do this assessment. And it was called a Strength Finders assessment. And I said, sure, I'll do it. So what you did back then was you bought a book called Now Discover Your Strengths, and you were given a code inside, and you went online and you took an assessment, which is a series of questions. And the questions were, where you resonated between these two different things. So one might be like, I like everybody, and the other would be like, I like it when everybody likes me. And then in the middle, you're like, this really resonates, or this resonates, or that doesn't resonate. And you're timed, and it's quick, and you don't overthink it, and you then you get this assessment, and it comes to you via email, and it's color coded, and it said, this is so cool, all these wonderful things about me. And I looked at those and I was like, oh, and she helped me too. She coached me through what some of those things meant, because they're categorized in themes, and the words don't necessarily mean what we think that those words mean. But throughout that process, I had a greater understanding of what I was bringing to the party, what I was good at, what my strengths were. And then we had my business partner do it. And lo and behold, we had really different strengths. So, and what was cool about it is some areas of conflict we could see, oh, we have a rub here because I'm this and he's that. And these can have some contrasts or ways of being. So that was illuminating and helpful and a really great experience. And then I kind of forgot about it. And about maybe 2 years ago, I was just going through this quest, this search for what's next. What's next professionally in my life? What do I want to do and be, and what's fulfilling, and really being a part of Speaker Academy brought a lot of this to the front, and has been helpful in my journey. So anywho, I talked to the same coach, and she said, this assessment has now been absorbed by Gallup, that does all of the research, and they took the initial, like positive psychology portion of it that this guy named Don Clifton developed, and she said, you can now do a 34 strength deep dive. And so I did that, and I came out with 34 themes. Not only did I come out with 34 themes, but I came out enamored by the psychology, the background, and the positivity of it. So in addition to having now 34 things, I also caught the fervor and went to Gallup in Chicago and became certified to be a strength finder coach to help other people not only discover what their talents were, but to develop those talents, and then to be able to go on and know themselves better and achieve things and have a more positive, better life, basically.
Heather, Thank you for sharing the journey. I knew a little bit of it because you and I talked recently, and I was so excited when you said you went on that journey because I really feel like a lot of people, if they did what you did, would go, "Oh yeah, oh okay, I knew that about myself." But you don't really think about it because it's just you, and you don't think about it. So to have somebody like tell you and then tell you the psychology behind it must be really empowering.
It absolutely can be. And I think so much of this has been me reflecting on my past. And I
Mm,
think of a couple time periods, and you all may as well. And one was, Mark, were you talking about your child being in college and doing really well? Well, when I was in college and I was a freshman, I didn't do really well. I was pre-med and I was struggling. And I went and talked to my academic advisor, and this is what my advisor said. Oh, we're going to have to get you through advanced trig. We're going to have to help you do this. You may want to get some tutoring around that. And I left, having entered college feeling pretty positive about myself. And after this meeting, I felt like a failure and I
mm,
felt like a loser. I did. And I was, just kind of demoralized. And I wish at that point I had understood some of my talents.
mm,
And the reason being is not to fix that and not to really like find a different career path, although I ended up abandoning that, but to be able to help myself in that situation by pulling on my natural talents. And I look at times in my life where I feel like I was happy, I've been in a flow, I felt like I was doing what I should be doing. And those were times where I had an intern at work. There were times when I taught in a classroom, I taught graphic design.
mm.
There were times where I had a client who came with a really intriguing, difficult problem, and I had all kinds of ideas and solutions and things for that. And I look at those and I think those are times where I use my strengths. So one of my strengths is something called developer, and that is seeing potential in other people. And
Mm.
it's something where you can instill a sense of self-worth and you acknowledge their talents and their skills. So it's a definitely like up with people talent. And I did that with these interns. I loved doing that. We had this one kid, our first intern came, and he was so talented and so great. And he had one goal. His one goal was to be a graphic designer in the music industry. And I said, Ryan, I said, I think you need to go and intern somewhere else because we don't have any clients in that area. We have no clients in that space. I don't even know who to connect you up to, but kiddo, go on and find somebody who can really give you that. And he stuck with us and he said, I want to intern here. And he said, I like you guys. And I like this. And I finally took him on. And I love this story. I mean, he's a great guy, but we just worked with him and I, would talk with him and I could see stuff and I pointed out and like, oh my gosh, you're so good at that. And let's do this. And he, you intern for a while and then you kind of lose touch. And he came back to us and he said, I have my first job in Seattle in the music industry.
Oh,
And that is so gratifying. And it's not that I did that for him. It's that he had this stuff inside of him and that's his. And I was able to see it, talk with him about it, promote it, and help him thrive. And that's what I love to do. So that was also a part of becoming a coach. Is coaching is really helping people achieve what they want and their goals. And it's not based on fixing
Mm.
people or doing something different. And yeah,
In a way that works for them, which is what
yeah,
didn't happen to you when you were in college.
yeah,
Right. Wow. I love that. And I'm going to take it negative for a second. I just started
yeah.
thinking about this.
Hmm.
I just was thinking about how many people that I know in my life, and I'm sure you both know as well. I'm like, I don't think they have any clue what their strengths are. So what happens to people when they're in the world living and they don't really know their strengths, or somebody hasn't said, look, you do all these great things. This is your strength.
Hmm.
What do you think happens then, Heather?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's complex in that this just gives you a framework to talk
Mhm.
about it. Gives you a framework, and it also gives you, I would say, the license to talk positively about yourself.
Mm.
And that's profound. I mean, I think in so many ways, I don't ever go in. I mean, I got a hard time telling people, like, I get really positive feedback in the speaking group that I'm in, and people say nice things about me, and I'm confident, but it's like we don't want to brag and we don't want to be the best of something in the room, or so I don't know. I mean, I think what happens if people don't know what their strengths are, um, it's a loss of potential. I mean, I think if you're self-aware at all, you do have some sense of, hey, I do this thing, or I've got this thing. I would say that the less relationship building skills. So one of the ways that these talents are categorized is there are these four areas, and they are like executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. And so I think if you're in strategic thinking and you're less relationship building or influencing, you're not necessarily going to be real vocal about what your skills or your strengths are. So they may be here, and they may be, I'm going to call it less flashy. Like there's this one talent, it's called woo. And it's not what it sounds like. It stands for, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it stands
exactly.
for winning others over.
Mm.
So Woo's go into a room, and Woo might see somebody in the corner who's awkward or introverted or isn't necessarily feeling comfy in the room. And Woo might go over and say, hey, I'm Heather. How are you? I like your shoes. What's going on? Come over here and meet these people. And
Mm.
get comfy and be a part, and I'm going to make you feel like seen and included and charmed. And people who maybe are, I'm just going to do broad categories here, but maybe somebody who's strategic thinking is like, what's the deal with that social girl? Like, why is she talking to everybody? And it, so our strengths don't, if you know it, so there's this part of it where there's like a developed strength and an immature strength. So an immature woo might be like, oh, like I'm gonna take over and really like fluff up the room and make everybody feel comfortable, and not read the room well enough to say, tone it down a little bit. Let's give everybody a different kind of space. And so when you so that's also what I love about this framework, is that it's positive, but it's not unequivocally positive, meaning you really you know your strength and you own it, but you also want to see how it interacts in a team, how it interacts with a group, and how, I mean, one of the most beautiful things is to be able to look at, okay, I have maximizer and I have input and I can come up with the strategic ideas, but I don't have activator. And so let's say Mark's an activator, and that means Marc can take those ideas and he can actually get stuff done. And so
Sounds like Marc.
yeah, well, I don't know that, but that's cool. But so you have that on a team, and to be able to recognize and see that and see each person's value and how the interaction of that value can become greater, that's wonderful. So to circle back to your question, Cathey, I think if you don't know or understand them, you don't contribute to the world in a way that you can. And you also may not contribute to your life in a way that you can, because all of these, every 34 has a wonderful component to it. And that's beautiful and so different than how we're trained in the world, I think, in a lot of ways. I remember carting this magazine around, and it was a Psychology Today, and the cover was "Reinvent Yourself at Any Age." And I thought, whew, this is gold. And part of my attraction to that is one of my strengths which is called ideation. And so I'm fascinated by ideas, and I was like, I want to dig into this and see what kind of ideas they have to reinvent yourself. Well, we as people, I don't think we need to reinvent ourselves. That is such a component of change and fixing. And what is more valuable and has greater traction is to understand and use like our top 5 strengths. Because when we do that, then we're really in the flow and we're really able to contribute and be and do in a way that is natural to us. So talents are these like naturally occurring patterns of thoughts or feelings that can be productively applied. And that's what's really wonderful about knowing and understanding and using our strengths.
Wow. First of all, I am so appreciating this conversation because oh man, I guess it's a couple of months ago now, was able to do the Strengths Finder.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, so I could definitely tell you my top 5 strengths, right? I wanna go back to the question Cathey answered and share what I think I heard from you, Heather, as well. What happens for people who don't know what their strengths are? I think what happens is we fall into, I'm not going to use the word trap, we fall into our default. And I think as a human society, our default is self-improvement, personal development. You got to get better, fix what's broken, right? It reminds me of that counselor that you spoke to, right? Who ultimately said, listen, if we're going to get you through this, we need to get you help with this because you're struggling with that. We need to get you resource for this because you got a deficit in that. And that's what happens. And then we walk out feeling like, damn, I suck, right? I think we need to get that out of our system. And what I love about the strength funds and everything you're saying, Heather, is now we need to shift to what are you good at, right? And and I love that example, as I'm standing across from the floor watching this woo person woo their way into conversations that they don't need to be wooing themselves into. Maybe instead of judging that, recognizing that's a strength they have. It's not necessarily my strength, but it's a strength they have. Ooh. I get excited. Here's what I love about the 34 strengths. The truth is, that person standing across the room who's like, what's up with that woo person? The truth is, I've got a woo strength too. I never heard this term before, Heather, so thank you. It's just an immature strength of mine. It's not a developed strength like this person has. So we all have these strengths. I love the fact that it really focuses on your top 5,
Yeah.
but you have all of them, right? I haven't even delved into how my others rank, but this whole idea that we need to stop reinventing ourselves, we need to stop thinking about improving ourselves. I'm not friends with him, but I always use this term, my good friend Shaquille O'Neal.
Mm.
Everybody spoke about the fact that he sucked at shooting free throws. And I'm sure coaches tried to get him to shoot better free throws. But the reason why he's a legend is because he didn't put all of the focus into trying to fix the deficit. He said, listen, when I jump up in the air and I slam that ball through the net and the glass shatters, that's what I need to keep doing. That's my
I'm
strength.
really good at that.
I'm really good at it. So let's uplift what we're really good at. So I'm really appreciating this. And I think that's the shift that people who don't know their strengths, you know your strengths if you really ask about it, but we spend so much time thinking about our deficits
Yeah.
that we need to shift our thinking.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because one of the things that we did in this coursework was to talk about how frequently when people see their strengths, they go to the bottom. So they go to 34 and they say 34 and 33 and 32 are things I want to work on.
Mm.
And so it's like they go to what we've already been instilled and instructed and like, let's fix that. But one of the things that was great that the instructor said is that sometimes in coaching executives, they will be really bummed out if in their top 5 they don't have strategic. And she even said that there was like the what do you call it? Not, somebody who was in charge of strategy for an ad firm, and they didn't have strategic in their top 5, and they lose it like I have to have strategic, and it's like no, that's not the point. That's not the point. And it was even great. This one guy said he had really strong Southern accent in our course, and he said, I mean, I looked at my 34 and its consistency, and he said, and that's not good. That can't be good. And I was like, okay, so we all come in with this critical take on ourselves.
Mhm.
And so the more that we read and understand how if you leverage, you're really supposed to work on your top 5, leverage those, use those, and then look at 6 through 10 and say, how can I strengthen or develop those?
This conversation has me thinking just funny enough, how strategic you can be with your own life and your own strengths and how you utilize them. It's very similar to what we do in Speaker Skills Academy, right? What we're doing is we're doing drills to help people become better speakers or storytellers, but not everybody is the same style of speaker. So that's why you'll never hear us coach anybody when we're doing drills, because we want people to find their own unique way, their own strengths when they speak and storytell, which, by the way, one of the things that we first found out about Heather is she's an awesome storyteller, right? Like really phenomenal storyteller. And it always made my heart happy when you were like, like, wow, like you seemed surprised that you were such a great storyteller, and you really are, like really legitimately are. But I've seen you in the course of being at Speaker Skills Academy in the community too, find some of those strengths that make you a good storyteller, and you really cling on to it in other drills and other ways. And so I feel like knowing is such a big thing in our life. We need to be aware always. But the strategic part is also knowing which things to bat away, which
Yes.
things to not go, okay, I suck at accounting. All right, I don't have to get better at it. I just have to find a good accountant. Or whatever, right? And so I love that. Go ahead, Mark. I see the finger pointing.
So I want to take that and build upon it. One of the most transformational things I heard about viewing your strengths, and Heather, I'm really curious your take on this. I know they give you your top 5. You really have 34 strengths. I hear the Southern guy say, that can't be good. I can't do the Southern accent as well as you did.
You did good.
Thanks.
Must be a strength.
What I was fascinated by was this metaphor that life is like a road trip. And in your car, we'll just stick to the 5 right now, are 5 people inside this car, each representing one of those top 5 strengths. And one is not necessarily better than the other. It's really about the conditions under which one of your strengths needs to take the driver's seat. So for example, my top strength is learner. That's probably why I ask all these damn questions, Cathey. Because I always want to learn. Right? My 5th strength is relator. There are times when I have had internal conversations where I'm like, listen, I tend to lead with my learner. I tend to put my learner in the driver's seat, and I got my relator in the back seat just sort of hanging out. But there are times, depending on the situation, when the relator should take the front seat and the learner should take, because sometimes you ask too many damn questions. You know? And so Heather, I was curious what your thoughts on that. Is like, not only should we not be thinking deficit, but now in terms of the strengths you have, for this Southern guy, for example, maybe you don't see consistency as a strength, but maybe the question is, where in your life and where in your work does your consistency strength need to step up to the driver's seat?
Yeah. And that is such an astute observation, in that when we know it, we can claim it, and we can say, I'm going to pull it here because this is what will move it forward or achieve my goal or be good for the group or get us to the next destination, our Airbnb on our road trip. So absolutely. Part of it is your combination within and how you use those strengths. And then it's a combination in teams, or it can also be in friendships or relationships as well. And again, that's where, once you claim it and you've developed it, you're able to have more flex on how it shows up, how it interacts with other people, when it wants to be quiet and when it wants to navigate strongly. So yeah, absolutely.
Heather, somewhat like your story, and I know, Mark, you already know the story, but I don't think Heather does. Heather, I grew up in a family of engineers. You know my sister Karen, so you know computer science, electrical engineering is her thing, patent examiner, like very engineer mind. She's very smart. She's very great at reading complex things and understanding how they work and even being able to explain them. So I've always viewed my sister as being very smart. Same with my dad, same with my brother, same with my cousins, my uncle, like everybody, especially on my dad's side of the family, all some kind of engineer. I grew up my whole life thinking I was stupid. And because my brain never worked well in those situations. Could I do it? Yeah, of course. Like I could, but I felt like it took so much more effort, and it was harder. And so I always grew up thinking, oof, I'm the dumb one in the family. And it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, early 30s that somebody's like, you're creative as fuck. Like that's your thing. And I was like, oh yeah, that actually is my thing. And ever since I've created a bunch of things that I feel proud of, right? And so had I just kept going my whole life going, God, I'm a terrible engineer. I'm really bad at doing that. You're right. I don't think I ever would have found, and I wouldn't truly be happy because now I feel really happy in the space that I have a strength in. Now, y'all are also making me feel some peer pressure here. I was like, okay, I need to take the Strength Finders test, and I'm going to because I've heard from Mark, we've got learner and relator, and then I forgot how you worded the one, but your developer and like ideator, right? Like are some of yours. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear both of your top fives.
Do
Heather,
you
you
want
want to
to
go first?
Heather, go
Sure.
ahead. Go first.
Okay. So, and I'm going to give a little bit of a critique on mine too. So developer you heard about. And my second one is positivity. And I didn't want that one. I didn't want it. I know. But this is what's funny about all of this. And I'll tell you why, is I thought it was light. Like that's a light skill, like a soft skill. But it's so good because we all have, I mean, I'll just say me, I have so much judgment around a lot of that, but it's not something that I bring to my coaching. I honor and reflect and love every strength that my clients have and am able to empower them and help them. Anywho, but positivity does mean that I can get people excited and enthused about things, and that's valuable. So anywho, I have that, and then I have strategic, which is, seeing alternative ways of proceeding. Um, uh, I can spot patterns and, solve things. So then I have ideation, which is fascinated by ideas and inventive solutions. And then my last one is maximizer. And maximizer is wanting to take something from good to great. And within each of these strengths, there is something that's called a blind spot awareness. So I talked a little bit about the woo person in the room. I have woo down. I have woo in somewhere. But for instance, maximizer. If I'm on a team, a group team, I'm doing a project, let's say, and I want this to be awesome. And I have a good example of that, which is I will dink a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation to death because it wants to be beautiful and I got to do this and that. So people on my team are like, we're good. Heather, we're good here. This is good. And so the blind spot is to recognize how that may not interact well with others at a certain point. And that's that whole mature, developed versus immature. So I'm so attuned to a room and how we all interact with each other and what's happening and everyone's emotions and how does everybody feel and is everybody getting enough of themselves in here and whatnot. So anywho, those are my top 5.
Those track for me.
So my first one is learner.
Yes.
I love asking my questions. I'm very curious. I'm more interested probably in the learning than what is in the end of the day learned. My second one is achiever.
Ooh.
I'm gonna get this done. I'm gonna get this done. That's why it's easy for my sister Cathey to call me up blindly and say, I got an idea about doing something. And in my head, I'm like, done. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go.
Like
Let's go.
I don't even care what it is. You just said there's something to do. Let's achieve it. Like that's all I'm thinking, right? My third one is futuristic.
Oh.
So as present as I can be on what needs to be done. I'm thinking about tomorrow. I'm thinking about somewhere down the line. I'm thinking about a Word Up conference and idea talks, right? I'm thinking about all of that in the future and what this will be, right? Great sometimes, but sometimes I'm so far in the future that it's hard to be in the present, right? So we got to acknowledge those things.
Yeah.
Funny, I'm like the Southern guy. My fourth one is consistency. Which probably explains why, like, I always look at things from everybody's perspective, right? It's probably why I often play devil's advocate with a lot of things. Oh, but look at it from that person's perspective. I have to acknowledge sometimes when looking at something from somebody else's perspective, can somebody piss somebody off? Listen, I'm not trying to look at it from that other person's perspective right now, right? So I have to know when to use it. And then my last one is relator. Like when I work extremely well with people that I have a strong relationship with,
Yeah.
which explains why my sister Cathey and I do such amazing work together. So
Mhm.
those are my five. And I will say this, there's somebody that I worked with who had positivity. And at first I was like, well, how the hell don't I have positivity? I thought I was like Mr. Positive,
Exactly.
That's true, Mark, right?
but
But
it's not one of my top five.
well, and you are, but it doesn't mean that some of your top fives don't have a positive bent and a contagion and an ability
Yeah,
to be able
that
to
makes sense.
activate people. I'll tell you the most beautiful thing that I heard was when Cathey has an idea and she talks to you about it. There's no negotiating, there's no talking through, there's no begging or pleading or like, please, here's the roadmap. There's like, done.
Yeah.
And that is insane that you two have that and that you leverage it and you do it and you use it. I mean, what a wonderful partnership to have that.
Mm. I love that. I appreciate that actually. It's so incestuous that we're saying it on this show because that's what the idea was this show. And Heather, we started the show during COVID, and when we launched it, because we launched it like 5 years ago, almost like right around now. It was like in the fall.
Mhm.
And so it's been going on for 5 years. And we kept saying, Heather, we were like, we're not really sure why we're doing it, but this is fun. We didn't really try to monetize it. We could have, but because there's a lot of ways we could have done it in our worlds, and we didn't really. We really just enjoyed doing it. And then when Speaker Skills Academy idea came up, we knew that this was just like the practice or the connection to, because when we launched Speaker Skills Academy, you're like, woof, everything was so easy. It just was easy. And I think Mark and I, although I haven't, taken the test yet, it'll be interesting. I bet a lot of our strengths like really intertwine pretty well.
I'm sure they do. And I want to say something about a word that you just used, and the word is test. And so when I work with people in a coaching capacity, I use the word assessment, and Gallup uses the word assessment. And the reason being is that we are tested to death, and we feel like when we're tested that there's a result that's good and a result that's
Mm,
bad. And so
Mhm.
or a result that's non-optimal or a result that needs to be fixed because we fell short on the test or we're lower on the test scale or whatever that is. And I think that that word assessment is so purposeful on their
yeah.
part because you are assessing talents.
Mm.
And that is like, I'm
Yeah.
looking for the good.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love that you keep us focused in this conversation, Heather, on the positive, because one of your traits is positive. And in fact, when you said it, I was like, oh, 100%. You and Mark are both very positive people, and I feel like positive activates a lot of other things. um I love this positivity on Tess, because Tess does have that. And Mark, I just want to say something about yours for a second. If I had to choose, I probably would have put positive as number one. In my mind, that's what I would have thought too. I would have been like, oh, positive. But also something that really kind of, what I think about you is your positivity is so interwoven into every single piece of thing that you do, that I feel like that's just it's almost a non-factor, because it's always present. It's
Mm.
just always there. Where some people I think can practice positivity in a different way. I just feel like yours is always there.
Mm.
It's like always on. It's always part of whatever else is there.
Thank you for saying that. And I go back to this this Southern guy, Cathey,
The
Heather.
consistency hater. No, I'm just kidding.
And yet, and I love this portion of it. What he probably has not seen is how other strengths that he wants to value level up his consistency.
Or the consistency makes those other, yeah, exactly. How they're intertwined.
Yeah. So I came up to him after he said that, and consistency is 34 on mine as well. And I thought about that and I thought, what does that mean? Because I am the person that people call when they have something that needs to be taken care of, or their dog needs to be walked, or they need a ride, or they want to talk about their elderly parent, or they know I'm there for them. And so consistency doesn't necessarily mean, again, that judgment that we're putting on that word. And I just keep going back to the positive psychology nature of all of this, which is these are categories of talents that can be developed into strengths.
Yeah.
These are not things that we're not good at. So even, and he was so cute because I mean, everybody came so self-aware and so willing to be vulnerable and willing to be challenged and willing to learn. And for him to say like, and that can't be good, is like, he knows that we're not here to have that can't be good. You know what we're here for? We're here for that can be great.
Oh.
And
Ooh. Ooh, that was a stick. I love the the atmosphere in which you were going through that course, because that is just the openness, being open to being able to go, ooh, and why do I think negatively about something that might show up as a possible, talent of mine?
so, but Cathey, we're all ingrained. I mean, it was so cute when you said that you had a tab open and that you needed therapy around that. You don't need therapy around that. You know what you need to do? You need to understand that that's probably input, and input is like you collect ideas and things. And so
Yeah.
here's what you've got. You've got 1,000 tabs open because you're curious and you're interested and you want to go back and I mean, that's what I'm thinking about what your tabs
I
are.
think you're right.
But and that's what I love about coaching is people say like, oh, I'm sure I'm a deficit in that, or I've been told this. I know my team thinks I suck, or I'm having a hard time, or why can't I get a raise, or why am I struggling, or what should I do with my life, or any of those things. And all of those things, I mean, really, this is just a starting point. This framework is a starting point for understanding. But when you start from a positive psychology viewpoint, I don't know. I just feel like we started from so much of a better standpoint than being at the bottom of the mountain and feeling like we're out of shape. And that's kind of what corporate America and how we're all trained, like get better, get stronger, yeah, like okay, but how about let it shine? What are you good at? I mean, I think is this really about doing more of what you do best?
I'm
Wow. Wow.
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead,
Go.
Kat. No,
No,
no, no,
go
go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh,
I know, because
I
I might
just,
take us a different direction. So go ahead.
all right. So, Heather, you just reminded me of the fact that we've got, for the most part, most people, two hands. And I'm seeing you in front of a room teaching this, and it's almost like you got a bag here or a weight. If I asked you to pick it up with one hand, I'm sure you could do it. Like, let's say the same 20-pound dumbbell, and I asked you to pick it up with your left hand. Truth is, you probably can pick it up with both hands. but you're right-handed. That doesn't mean that your left hand is weak or that you need to improve your left hand. It's just that you tend to use your right hand more. And to me, like even with the top 5 strengths, it doesn't mean that the others are weak or anything of that nature. It's just that I'm inclined to do more learning than I might lead with relating. That's
Yeah.
all it means. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mark, one of the exercises that we did during the training was we were asked to write, our strengths something like 50 times on a piece of paper. And so we all get like, okay, gotta do this. Okay. And then she said, and now change hands, change to your non-dominant hand. So we did that. And so 2 takeaways. I mean, one is it exactly is what you just talked about, is you use your strength. And then the other thing, and we've all been in class now for, I don't know, 4 days. What did people do? I'm not very good at this with the left hand. And then, hey, she's pretty good at that. How come and it's like, no, folks, what did we learn? What did we learn? But you're exactly right. That whole go with your strength, go with your right arm.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
This
All
is
right,
going to be
Kathy, take us in another direction, Kathy.
well, it's almost the same actually. It's just going to be a little different. I feel like it's your road trip example. So I'm keynoting for a storytelling workshop tomorrow, and one of the things that the client really wanted to do was they wanted to let everybody know in the organization that your story is important. And your story, sometimes your story in some of your stories, and I started this was my piece of it. I started thinking about this over the course of talking to the client. I was like, if you were to ask somebody, what's your story? What does that mean? You have so many stories. One of my stories is I was a single mom raising 2 kids. That's one. That's not my whole life story, right? Everybody has a bunch of stories. And in some of your stories, you're the main character. You're the main character. In other stories, you're the supporting character. And in other stories, you're the NPC, you're the non-player character, and all 3 are important, right? And so I started thinking about how that relates also to your strengths. In some scenarios, a certain strength needs to be the main character. And in other ones, it needs to be the NPC in the background. And it's still very important that it's running in the background. If you've ever watched a TV show and they're on the streets of New York, because Mark, there's lots of people on the streets of New York, right? Can't have all the people walking by in the background looking into the camera going, they're the NPC. They're very important. They have to be the background of the streets of New York. And if people do that, what will they have to do? They'll have to cut and do it again, right? They have to get every single person playing the role that they're supposed to play. And so I feel like, Heather, what you're saying too is when you know your strengths and you're in different scenarios, you have to know which ones to bring off the bench. You have to know which ones to say, hey, this is the one I'm bringing. I'm going to, what's going to get me through this? Massive amounts of consistency. That's what I'm going to do right now. It's the only thing that's going to work in this scenario right now is consistency. And I think that's awesome. I think it's like very empowering to know that. And to have a bag of 34, I'm so in. I cannot wait to take the test, by the way.
Assessment.
The assessment.
Sorry. Oh my gosh. The assessment. Whoa. I literally just wrote.
No,
Kathy, you got to forgive yourself because I think this is exactly what we were talking about.
No,
It's
it is.
so ingrained.
It
It's
is.
so ingrained to
They
use
literally
that
just
language.
I wrote assessment, not test. I wrote it just right now. That's hilarious. I can't wait to take the assessment. Yeah.
Oh, man, I love the metaphor, by the way, of this is a team of 34 people on your bench, right? And just speaking athletically for a moment, it's like as a coach, who do you call off the bench depending on this moment?
Yeah, and in terms of teamwork, I mean, really the guidance is to work with your top 5, really develop those, to understand your top 10 and leverage those, and kind of ignore the rest. And so, but ignoring the rest also means acknowledging what some of those are and how other people on the team, you're going to pull in Shaquille when you're like, okay, this is how we're going to orchestrate this thing. We're going to bring him in when we need the powerhouse, not for free throws. We're not going to put him up for three. Well, but that's the beauty of understanding strengths in a team or in a family or in a relationship. I mean, one of the things that I look at is if I'm planning a trip with my partner or something, he doesn't like to plan, and I'm not sure what that is, but he has so many other great qualities. Let's pull those qualities and use those qualities and use my qualities where I go in and ask people for directions and where to eat and all that stuff, because that's something I like. But you pull those, you leverage and use those. And honestly, it can eliminate a lot of conflict too. And I think that's where when I go and work with teams is very informative and helpful, because it's saying all of this is valuable. Where are we going to use this? Where are we going to pull this? And you guys both use sports metaphors so beautifully. And I think it's that teamwork and it's that power of knowing everyone's skills and talents on the team and when to when to make the play to do that.
Love that. I love that you spoke about the teams that you worked with, right? And you said this a little bit earlier, like for every individual on a team to know what their strengths are, and for everybody on the team to know the strengths of others so that they can start to leverage that, right? Like that's the next level stuff.
Yeah.
And Heather, I don't even know how many people in their own personal relationships, right? Like I would love it if my whole family took the strengths of, right? There's so much we can learn just about our everyday interactions that I think a lot of people should really leverage this. Heather, I had a question because you started at the top about talent plus investment and energy equals that strength. I'm curious about that investment part. Like what does investment and energy look like being poured into your talent so that it can become a strength?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one would be just the process of coaching. So as a coach, that relationship is an investment in that talent. And an investment in light of, let's say, a problem or a goal. So if someone comes to me and they are struggling at work or they have a work issue or whatnot, I'm going to look at what that talent is. We're going to look at that talent together. And this is where a lot of research and backing is already provided and supplied. And it means there's an explanation for that. And so it isn't just developers are good at investing in people. It's developers are good at seeing this, doing this, investing in people. Some of the traits are this and this and this. Your blind spot can look like this. Here's where it's activated at maturity. Here's where it can be less mature. So investment is looking at all of that whole of it and putting it together. Again, this is just a framework. And so when you play out scenarios, let's say you've come to me, you've got this problem, and I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to ask you questions like, well, how do you see where this trait is helpful? Or have you thought about using it this way? Or what's a good example in your past where you have leveraged your talent, and what did it get you, and how does that work? That's investment. So that is looking at all of that whole, how did it serve you? What was your outcome? How did you feel about it? What did you learn? And then taking that and learning from it is going to optimize that talent into a strength. And some folks can do that too. I mean, I was encouraged by my coach to look at my strengths, or look at my talents and start using them. Like, start using them. And that's great input. I think that we can get farther faster by having coaching in our lives to achieve something. It's a very disciplined individual with an incredible amount of focus who can invest in their talents to develop their strengths. And it's also something, it's kind of like if you get personal coaching and personal training coaching, and then you might do your exercises on your own down the road, or you might do a triathlon or whatever it is that you want, or whatever it is that you wanted. But when we're actively engaged with another human being who's trained and has a ton of goodwill and wants that outcome, which is what coaches do, which is different than a consultant who gives you like, here are 17 things you need to do, or even
Yeah.
a therapist who may hold space for you and talk about maybe why a certain thing is a way because of your past. This coaching is the investment to help you maximize your strengths.
Mm. Yeah, such a good answer. So good. It reminds me of a conversation John and I had just recently. He goes, "You and Mark always say that thing about Speaker Skills Academy is like you don't get better when you're actually doing the actual thing." And he goes, "Is that really, really true?" And I go, "Well, you're right. That you get incrementally better. Like you can get, if you go, but honestly, where do you get most of your skills? When you're being coached, when you're drilling, when you're practicing, right?" So yeah. And so we kind of had that conversation in a different way. And I think it's right. People going along in their life might actually, take some of their talents and turn them into strengths just by slowly doing it without awareness. But man, can you do it 100 times faster if you're
Yeah, one of
doing
the
it
things,
intentional.
yeah, that I was exposed to is that a lot of so something like 90% of Fortune 500 companies use strength finders, and it is so widely adopted in corporations and companies, and because of the science and the data behind it, and also the outcomes. I mean, it has incredible statistics that are positive. And one of the things that happens is that in HR or in talent recruitment, with teams and whatnot, if people take the test and then a lot of times they are in a whole group and they go over what all the strengths are. And I've talked to a lot of people, and that's how their assessments went, and there's high value in it, and they really were intrigued and interested, and a lot of them still have memories of that and takeaways. But it was done in a group, so a group setting. And um, some of the people who were there being trained were really apprehensive about doing one-on-one, because you get more when you do this one-on-one coaching. And people are like, oh gosh, I don't know how I'm going to have the time to do that with my team and my group and whatnot. But it is really valuable to have that additional or extra coaching around something with this framework.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. All right. I cannot believe, like, I think the three of us could talk about this conversation for like 10 hours straight, and it feels like an hour because I think we're all in that same space where this stuff is very fascinating and awesome to us. But quick question on the rapid fire here. Mark, what's your favorite thing that you heard today or something that you loved?
My favorite thing that I heard today was the metaphor of the 34 strengths on the bench.
Mm,
I love that metaphor. And something I learned, talk about love and learn, right?
hmm
Something I learned was the terminology immature strengths, developed strengths
Yes.
and immature strengths. Both of them are strengths, but I really love learning that term today.
Okay, I'm gonna second that one before I ask you yours, Heather. My That's something I never really considered. So I loved that and learned it as well. Is that a strength or a talent could have this spectrum of, underdeveloped to developed, or developed to immature, immature to developed. And I really love that. It makes me look at those kind of things a little bit different. And I also really love just having the positive psychology framework over laying on
Yeah.
top of it. I just really
Yeah.
feel like even to slap my hand and say, no, not test, assessment. I love that. So Heather, what's something that we talked about today that's your favorite? And where can
Well,
people find you? Those two questions.
great question. So I do want to address a couple things. One is, that is something that I learned in the training, was about immature and developed strength. So that's directly from Gallup
Mm-hmm.
training, and I want to just give them props for
Yeah.
that. And then also the positive psychology, I mean, that is from Don Clifton, this gentleman who trained in World War II bombers and had just an intrigue with human potential and human psychology and positive psychology. So that's just the essence of this entire thing, if you will, and I'm really drawn to that.
Mm.
So what I think one of the most rewarding things is, I mean, you guys will talk about many, many things and lots of things, and y'all go deep and have so much background and knowledge and stories and experience. And I love that you both just took to this, if you will, and took to it in a way where, Marc, you've done the assessment, and Cathey, you want to do the assessment,
Mhm.
and how you guys just ran with it. It's like this little nugget, and then you got it. And that's been my experience when I talk with people about what I'm doing professionally. And it isn't a hard sell, meaning there isn't this laborious background, or you've got to do this and this and this in order to understand it or adopt it. And so one of the things is, I just appreciate so much both of your enthusiasm and curiosity, and then the good questions that you ask, and then how I could see both of you as individuals processing this so differently. And I think, and that's what I see when I coach people, is it's that individual coming to this scenario and this relationship in terms of working with me, where I see this framework as providing the ability to be able to see wonderful things about themselves, and also to be able to open a doorway to a path to move forward.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Heather, I am so glad that you're doing this, and you're very passionate about it. And clearly, if you're watching this right now, you probably know already what you need to do, and that's contact Heather. So Heather, please
So cur-
please tell the
Thank
audience
you.
where they can reach
Yeah.
you,
So
'cause they need to.
currently, you can reach me through LinkedIn with my name, or you can reach me off of my website, which is my design and marketing website, which is coopramcreative.com. Um, and I haven't launched my coaching website yet, which I fully intended to do before I went on the podcast. It's so cobbler's children, though. I can make a website and design it and brand my coaching business, but I have yet to do it. So,
Ah.
but I will say this: if you reach out to me, we can have a preliminary meeting discussion to see about coaching, and to see if we're a fit, and to see if I'm the person who can help you achieve your goals, or just help give you information about the strengths finders, or um, your own talents and strengths. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss something that, yes, I am passionate about it. And I have to say, I'm so thankful that I'm passionate about it,
Mm.
because it reinvigorated this enthusiasm that started very small 10 years ago for a really, a good purpose. And now it's been expanded into something where I feel like I'm going to use my talents and am using my talents and
Mm.
skills for the betterment of other people.
Mm. Oof.
Awesome.
Oof. I love that. Well, Heather, thank you for being on the show and talking about
Mhm.
this. I love that we connected with you on this part of the journey where you're just starting to get started, because we
Yes.
know that, a year from now, we'll look back at this and, there's going to be many people that reach out to you. And I hope that you do, because Heather is phenomenal. Heather, Mark and I appreciate you so much. We love this conversation. We love this topic. And, in the context of why we named our show It's About to Go Down, we were always like writing each other back and forth, like, oh, it's about to go down, we're about to go on a stage and talk about this idea. You just stepped up on this stage, and what you did with your idea is you made it go down. So thank you for being here and doing that. And everybody who's watching, thank you for watching another awesome episode of It's About to Go Down.